One of the things that I see kind of pop up pretty often in the strength conditioning, personal training, fitness field is this tension between older coaches looking at a lot of the younger coaches. When I say young, I'm 33 at the time of this video. I turned 34 this year, but I'm talking about like coaches in their 20s and even in their 30s, such as myself. And you see a lot of the older coaches, kind of calling out the younger guys, these young guys on the internet and this, that, and the other, as if, these people don't have good information and that you should judge who you're getting your information from by the age of the person and something like that. So, a few issues with that. Number one, this kind of goes back to this 10,000 hour rule. You need to have at least 10,000 hours of mastery. Well, interestingly, many of the same people who I hear who really kind of push the 10,000 hours, you need your 10,000 hours, contradict themselves when they bash these young coaches who are 26, 27 years old, as if this person hasn't accumulated enough time frame, enough time in training in the trenches to have any good ideas. Why is that? Well, I just did the math here, and if a trainer, let's say out of school at 21, is doing full-time training, personal training, 40 hours a week, each year, averaging 40 hours a week, each year they're going to have 1,920 hours per year. Multiply that times 6, and you get 11,520 hours. So, out of school at 20, 21 years old, by the time you're 26 and a half, you're going to have your 10,000 hours. So, they've got that criteria. So, we can't judge by age, we have to judge by experience. Secondly, times have changed. Coaches are, personal trainers and strength coaches are starting much earlier these days, now than they ever were. A lot of the older coaches, you talk to them, they own businesses before they didn't even get into coaching and training until they were late 20s or 30s. So why? Because the educational realm is different. Training wasn't the same thing. So we can't judge it by what you went through as an older individual to what the current technology and the current educational platform is offering these days. People are starting much earlier. So, also, this whole concept that equating young with the level of information, as if someone who's young, they can't have good information, is an ad hominem. That's a logical fallacy. You judge information for what it is. Information, not by the person who's giving the information. Now, that's not to say that someone who has not spent 20 years researching hypertrophy isn't more likely to offer good information on hypertrophy training than someone who's spent a year in the gym just trying to get big. That's not to say that. All that is to say is that information is information, and that just because you're young does not mean that you can't offer good information or that you do not have good ideas. One thing that age or experience does not give you is talent. Talent is something that is something that's within you, and you can cultivate it through experience and age. But if you got the talent and you got the ideas, it's going to come through no matter what. So, continuing on with this experience versus information, I would sit back in these classes when I went to conferences all the time. I still do. Now I'm lucky enough to speak at most of them. But I used to always go to conferences as a student. I still sit in the back of the room as much as I can, even when I'm teaching at the same event. And I would see a lot of strength coaches and physical therapists stand up there, with lots of experience in the strength and conditioning realm or in the physical therapy realm. And they were pontificating to myself and other personal trainers. So these are different fields. The fitness field, the personal training field, boot camp field, that's a different setting than the collegiate environment or the clinical setting. The collegiate environment and clinical setting are based more off of protocols. Personal training is based more off of customer service. So, people aren't forced to work with you and do what you want to do. They can leave at any time. They're not pushed there from their doctor or at post-surgery or to stay on the team. If they don't like it, they're leaving. So it's more customer service based. So here I would see these strength coaches and physical therapists with 20 years experience plus doing what they do, but with little to no experience doing what I did in the personal training setting. Maybe they trained 1 or 2 people a day or 10 hours a week in training. All the rest was done in their strength conditioning realm or whatever. So when I added up the hours, if we go back to this 10,000 hour thing, when I added up the hours, I'm doing 9 hours a day of training. This person is doing 2 hours a day of training. Yeah, they're 40 and I'm 25, but I've got way more experience in the personal training realm than this person does. And they're talking to me that I'm not experienced enough. So this is one of the motivating things that got me to start teaching and really targeting personal trainers, because personal trainers need to be learning from everyone, but it does help when you learn from folks who are actually have done and do spend their life cultivating exactly what you do. Last point I want to make is this, about this, going back to this whole older coaches having animosity towards younger coaches who are building names up and whatnot. All I can speak for myself is here. One of the reasons why I started teaching is to leave this industry, this fitness industry, better than when I left it. I think that's that's like what parents are supposed to do, right? Want you to have a better life, they want their kids to have a better life than they did. Well, I want to give personal trainers better education and less confusion than what I came up with. So anytime somebody who's younger than me, whether they're less experienced or not, is able to have success at a faster rate than I was able to, I'm going to congratulate them, and I'm also going to give myself a little pat on the back, because if this person has come to my courses and says, hey, you have really been a mentor to me and you've really helped me, why would I have animosity towards this person? Why should I not be proud and say, I've done my job? Because when I pay for someone's DVDs or when I pay for someone's courses, I'm paying them so I don't make their same mistakes. That's what these things are sold to us for. When I've spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours with my education so I don't make the same mistakes that these older coaches made. That's what you pay for. And then to turn around and see the fruits of that labor, where you have a lot of younger coaches who are able to start at a higher level than the older coaches were because of the great information that the older coaches are putting out there. This is something to be proud of. It's not something to turn around and say, oh, well, you're just too young to know anything. No, you put your time in, you spent your money, and now you've started out. You're not making the same mistakes because you learn from these people and they've done their job. So I thank all these older coaches for doing your job, because that these younger coaches out there were able to have success and put out good information and not make the same mistakes that you did. It's because of you that you were able to put us up there at a higher platform, and I'm hoping to pay it forward and continue to do the same thing. So final point, regardless of your age, don't be afraid to put your information out there, whether you want to write a blog, whether you want to write articles, do YouTube videos. Don't get caught up, my advice anyways, don't get caught up in this nonsense about your age. If you have good information, the information is good regardless. And if you have talent, let that talent show and share it with the world, because if you've got good ideas that are going to help me and help my clients get better results and help me teach better information to the folks who come to my seminars and workshops, I'm all for it. I look forward to your information.